Hey there, this is Dr. Corey Gilbert with the Healthy Marriage Inner Circle and the Warrior Marriage Podcast, and we'd love to have you join our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/The Healthy Marriage, and join the dialogue there and actually learn more about how you can build a healthy marriage and family. And this focuses on both. Today I want to focus on your marriage, on actually conflict. One of the things that we found in research is you can see the seeds of kind of how things are going to go in marriage prior to the wedding, and that's in how you handle conflict. And if you think of all the things that you could focus on, that is a critical one prior to the wedding. After the wedding, it's all bets are off. It's kind of one of those things where you've got to learn the skills to actually do this better. And the truth is every couple, without exception, has that journey to go on, to learn how to communicate better, how to conflict better, how to understand. And so here are just a few tips. One of the first tips, number one, pause before you blurt out something hurtful. Pause before you blurt out something hurtful. You need to be able to take that second, that millisecond even, to think before you speak. I have a really hard time with that. I speak for a living. I don't tend to think before I speak, and that can get me into trouble. And learning that one skill sometimes can be life-changing for some people. And what I'm going to tell you, some of these points, what you'll find is some of these are just gold for you, and others are kind of and you move on. Or you find later, wow, I come back to that one and go, that one really changed things. And you just tried it kind of haphazardly. Yes, and it's a lifetime of tweaking that. So first one, pause before you blurt out something hurtful. When you pause, you physiologically change. Your heart rate can go down. You can actually think. You're actually thinking at a high rate, or a lot faster than you're speaking. And so you're able to formulate or pause for a second and actually have a more thoughtful response. Again, some of us need that. I need that. Really, really critical to pause. Second one is speak in I rather than you phrases. You've heard this before, I'm sure. It's when I say I'm hurting, that's different than you hurt me. Or I'm afraid versus I'm afraid of you, or you're you. I, you. I actually owns it. You can't necessarily argue with my feelings necessarily. You can, but you is an attack. It automatically tends to go downhill very fast. And so that's a really simple one. And if you just pay attention, so am I saying this now, and you pay attention to how you respond, you might notice, wow, I use a lot of you statements. And no wonder sometimes this goes south. Not always, but a lot of times. So being able to learn, when I change the wording of that, I can change everything. And again, as I've said, small tweaks change everything in your marriage. So using I versus you is really critical. Avoid character assaults. Avoid attacking them. 4 horsemen of the apocalypse from John Gottman: criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. These first two, we tend to do these. And it becomes when they're actually a part of a lot of everyday life even. But criticizing, the character assaults get into more of the hate, that anger, or that cutting into a person. That's off the table, period. And should be something that if you see this prior to the wedding, you run or it's dealt with. Another one is instead focus on the actual issue. So kind of following up on the previous one, focus on the actual issue. When you put the actual issue in front of us, it kind of externalizes it, and you actually can deal with sometimes some pretty difficult things. And your marriage is meant to be a team, not a me against you like you're in a boxing ring, which is really important. Here's one for me. Listen more and talk less. When I listen more, I learn a lot more about my wife's thinking and feeling, and she's an introvert and an internal processor, so she will tell me when she's ready, and so that's difficult. I need to learn to listen more and talk less. Some of us might need to talk a little more and share more of what we're thinking and feeling. That's true, but this is just a good point to think about. Change what you say and how you say it. This is kind of reiterating some of these other ones. How you say things matter. The tone of voice, crossed arms, facial expression, who we are in presentation, so vocal, voice, words, all this impacts the message. Because the truth is, we say something, a string of words, that's what they hear, but they hear a lot more than that. They're taking all the other data, which is a lot more, again, all the physical, the presentation of yourself. I was talking to one couple one time where the husband was standing in the doorway, blocking the wife from leaving one room to another. And she was overwhelmed because in that moment, it was a moment of panic, like I'm trapped. not his intent at all. But for her, it became a point of fear. And so the physical presence can be a negative if you're not careful. So changing what you say and how you say it, that how you say it, his presentation is really, really, really important. And who's our teacher? It's our spouse. They help teach us, show us, talk and dialogue about what I call second conversations. You have a conversation or a dialogue or a discussion or a fight that doesn't go well. It's the conversation that follows it that analyzes that one that helps us learn, or second or third or fourth, as we look back at, okay, that didn't go well. How can I learn? How can I love you better? How can I serve you better? How can I soften what I said, because I really didn't mean it to come across that way, and I'm sorry it hurt you. That was not my intent. And so being able to do that's really, really important. Next one, resist the urge to avoid the argument. Some of us are just avoiders. This isn't always bad, but stuff needs to get dealt with. So be careful that you're not, you think you have to fix everything. Like 70% of conflicts in marriage are not solvable by some like tangible thing. That's difficult. But resist the urge to avoid the argument. This tends to be a little bit of that cancerous, getting into that last one on the four horsemen, the stonewalling. I just kind of don't care. We don't want apathy. We don't want to check out. Things need to get dealt with so we can move forward. And there's a lot of peace in that. This is an interesting one. Put yourself in your partner's shoes. This is empathy, except I can't know what my wife thinks or feels. I can try. She can try. The truth is I can't. So be careful that you don't think you do know what it's like. But it's an attempt to. So husbands, your job is to understand your wife and spend your life learning her and growing in your knowledge of her, and vice versa. Wives, it's understanding your husband, how he thinks, how he feels, how he relates to his successes, his failures, his identity, hers, same thing. And so how do you lean into that and understand them? It's relationship and it's conversations and it's doing life together. Never threaten to leave your significant other. This is cancer. No, no, no. The word divorce shouldn't be in the vocabulary. We don't play that game. We don't act like we're going to. This needs to be a very, very serious boundary that we don't play that game. I'm all in for life, no matter how I feel. The default, how am I going to work this out? How are we going to work this out? No matter what I feel. It's really, really critical. And the seeds of that are from prior to the wedding. And you make sure we grab onto that early. And if not, we need to develop that muscle to always default to how am I going to work it out. Never resort to physical or emotional abuse. This seems like a no-brainer, but it's not. A lot of people resort to physical violence or verbal violence that does serious harm. And that's where you get help, serious help. Like it's time for intervention. This is not acceptable. And I hope these are actually encouraging to you to think through how you can better love and serve your husband or your wife. Again, just to run through and pause before you blurt out something hurtful. Speak in I rather than you phrases. Avoid character assaults. Instead, focus on the actual issue. Listen more and talk less. Change what you say and how you say it. Resist the urge to avoid the argument. Put yourself in your partner's shoes. Don't threaten to leave your significant other. Never resort to physical or emotional abuse. And these are encouragements actually from a news article of someone that put together some key concepts from John Gottman and some other researchers that are really, really helpful for us to be better husbands and better wives and love our spouses. May you have a healthy marriage, a strong marriage, one that you're proud of and that's growing and maturing as you grow older together, and that leaves a legacy. Because then this passes down the line to your own kids and to those you influence outside your family. So bless you in your marriage, and may you have a strong marriage.